AITA for pressing charges after my sister flooded my wedding-gifted house. My name is Brandon, and I married Claire 8 months ago. Her family comes from old money. Her mother, Vivian, makes multi-million-dollar decisions before lunch and never needs to raise her voice to command respect. My family, on the other hand, is solidly middle class. My father, David, works in insurance sales. My mother, Karen, is a school administrative assistant, and my younger sister, Courtney, has never faced consequences for anything. I was the one who got good grades and worked my way through college. Courtney was the fun one. I currently work as a commercial real estate appraiser. It offers good money and stability. I built my career from scratch. When Claire and I got engaged, Vivian treated me like family from day one. No tests, no demands, no having to prove anything. Just respect. The wedding was at Vivian's estate. Around 100 guests, exactly how we wanted it. During the reception, Vivian pulled us aside and handed us some keys along with an envelope. Inside were the deeds to a Victorian house in the historic district. 3 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, stained glass windows, a wraparound porch, the kind of place that costs about $800,000, the kind of house you dream of but never think you will actually be able to own. I tried to turn it down. Vivian dismissed it immediately. Every couple needs a proper home to start their marriage. The property remains within the family trust, but you will have use and control of it for life. Consider it yours in everything that truly matters. It is an investment in your future. Claire and I had been saving for 4 years, barely enough for a down payment on a basic house. This changed everything. My parents seemed genuinely happy during the reception. Mom kept repeating how blessed we were. Dad shook Vivian's hand so many times it started to get awkward. Courtney was a bridesmaid and seemed excited, although she asked way too many questions about the property's value and its square footage. For 2 weeks, life was perfect. We spent our honeymoon in Greece. Upon returning, we found the house spotless, professionally cleaned, and partially furnished by Vivian, as if she wanted everything to be ready for our new beginning. The nights became quiet and ours. We would stay up talking for hours, planning the future, imagining what was to come, mentioning kids someday. All those typical newlywed things that make everything feel possible. Then Mom called. "We need to talk. Your father and I are heading over there. We are bringing Courtney." That tone was not a normal conversation. I knew immediately that something was wrong. When I asked, she said, "Tonight. We will be there in an hour." The call ended, and I stared at the phone for a few seconds with that uneasy feeling settling in my chest. The 3 of them showed up as if they were walking into an intervention. There was a strange energy in the room, tense, measured, as if they had rehearsed every word before knocking on the door. My father dropped onto the couch. "We have been thinking about your situation here." "What situation?" Courtney chimed in immediately. "This house." She gestured around as if calculating where she would put her furniture. "It is really pretty, honestly, very pretty." "Thank you," Claire replied dryly. My mother leaned forward with that concerned mom look I recognized from my childhood. "Courtney's lease is up next month, and she is having trouble finding something she can afford." I felt my stomach sink. I knew exactly where this was going. "The point is," my father continued, "that Courtney needs a place to live and you guys have this big house. It seems like the obvious solution." Claire spoke up before I could, her voice firm. "We can help her look for an apartment, but this is our house." The change in Courtney's expression was immediate. Her eyes grew cold and her posture stiffened. "Right, that is exactly the attitude," she said with a venomous smile. "Some people get everything handed to them on a silver platter and suddenly think they are better than everyone else." I felt my jaw clench. "Courtney, you are crossing a line," I replied, but my mother cut me off immediately, not letting me continue. "Hand this house over to your sister," she said harshly. "She needs it more than you selfish people do." Her gaze grew sterner. "Some ungrateful people simply do not deserve nice things." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. For a second, I felt it. That old conditioning resurfaced. That voice in my head that had been with me for years, whispering the usual things. Be reasonable. Family comes first. Maybe they are right. I had spent my whole life being the responsible one, the one who gave in, the one who made sacrifices to keep the peace, to make everything work, to avoid being the problem. And for a moment, I almost apologized. Then I looked at my wife. I saw the confusion and bewilderment in her eyes, as if she could not believe what she was hearing. I remembered Vivian's kindness and everything we were building together in that home. And in that moment, I laughed. It was not a friendly laugh. Are you guys serious? My father nodded as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. Real family members help each other out. Courtney is struggling, and you guys are comfortable in a house you did not even earn. Courtney smirked smugly and said, "Stop being a burden and do what we are telling you. It is not like you earned it. Your rich mother-in-law handed it to you on a silver platter." Claire, my wife, stood up. "With all due respect, which at this point is none, my mother gave us this house." She paused firmly, holding their gaze. "Not to you, not to your daughter, to us. It was a wedding gift, so I do not understand why you think you can come and demand it as if it belonged to you." My mother's face immediately flushed red. "So now you think you are too good for the family, huh?" I replied calmly. "I think you are completely out of line if you think we are going to hand over an $800,000 house just because Courtney does not want to work full-time. She works hard." My father raised his voice. "She works part-time at a boutique by choice," I replied. "She turned down a manager position last month because it interfered with her social life." "Do not you dare judge my decisions," Courtney said. "I am not judging. I am stating facts. You cannot go through life avoiding responsibilities and then demand that I solve your problems." For 2 hours, they kept pushing. They used every manipulation tactic possible: accusations of selfishness, threats to cut off contact, reminders of all the sacrifices they supposedly made for me. Courtney just watched, leaning back as if it were already her place, with the attitude of someone who believes everything belongs to her. Every now and then, she would make comments about how she would redecorate the house, as if the decision had already been made. Finally, Claire had enough. "Get out of here." My mother blinked in surprise. "Excuse me." "You heard her," I said without moving. "Get out of our house. Now." My father started to protest, but my wife had already walked to the door and opened it wide. "Leave," she said firmly, "or I will call the police and have you removed from a property that does not belong to you." Courtney let out a short, mocking laugh. "Fine, but do not come crying when your fancy new family gets tired of you and leaves you on the street." That was the last thing I needed to hear. I stood up and looked at the three of them, one by one, taking my time. "Let me make something very clear. You will never set foot in this house again. You will not contact us about this issue again." I let the silence weigh for a second. "And if you try, you are going to find out how quickly I can make your lives very uncomfortable." I pointed to the door. "Now leave." When they finally left, my wife looked at me. "Are you okay?" "Yes," I replied. "But this is not over." She nodded. "I know." And she was right. In less than 24 hours, it all began. The calls came before 7 in the morning. The messages, past midnight. A constant bombardment of pressure and emotional blackmail. My mother sent texts saying Courtney cried herself to sleep. My father kept repeating that I was choosing my consequences, and Courtney bombarded us with screenshots of expensive apartments accompanied by quotes about how she suffered while I lived in a mansion. Social media became a battlefield. Courtney started posting quotes about fake family members, photos of tiny spaces, and polls hinting that money changes people. Her friends quickly joined in, fueling the narrative without caring about what was actually happening. At church, my mother played the victim, the devastated mother with an ungrateful son. My father went further. He showed up at my office twice, trying to convince my boss that I was unstable. They twisted everything. According to them, I had married for money, forgotten my roots, and abandoned my sister. Not a single word about how they had demanded my house or the times they called us selfish. Claire, my wife, on the other hand, remained calm. "They are escalating," she said. "We need to document everything." And we did. We created a folder with everything: screenshots, voicemails, texts, and posts. The pattern was clear and undeniable. Then the extended family chimed in. Aunt Patricia called crying, saying I had changed, and Uncle Gary left voicemails full of rage. Even cousins I barely knew started giving me moral lectures. All the conversations followed the same script. First disappointment, then guilt, and finally, anger when I did not give in. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Courtney stormed into my workplace as if she owned the building. "We need to talk," she announced, raising her voice in the middle of the office. "Courtney, this is my job. You have to leave." "Oh, right. Now you are too important to talk to your own sister." She crossed her arms and dropped into one of the waiting chairs. Fine. I will stay right here until you are ready to have an adult conversation. My boss came out of his office, visibly concerned. Is everything all right out here? He asked me. Courtney did not let me answer. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about my brother's situation. He has been having family issues that are affecting his judgment. I felt my stomach drop. Courtney, leave right now. She smiled. Did you know his new family gifted him a house worth nearly $800,000? She said it loud enough for the whole office to hear clearly. They gave it to him just like that, and now he refuses to help his own sister, who is about to be homeless, because he thinks he is too good for the family that raised him. I am worried about his mental state. I could see my coworkers pretending not to look. The receptionist's eyes were wide open. A few clients in the waiting room exchanged awkward glances. My professional reputation was crumbling in real time. My boss cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. Miss, I am going to have to ask you to leave. This is a workplace. It is not appropriate for family arguments. Courtney's mask cracked for a moment, revealing the cold calculation behind her concerned sister act. Sure, everyone always takes his side. Poor Brandon, the golden boy who never does anything wrong. Then she shot me a look full of contempt and said, I hope you are proud of yourself, brother. I really hope it is worth it. And she left. The office was silent for a few seconds, then the whispering started. I spent the rest of the day answering awkward questions, trying for damage control, and to save what little was left of my professional image. At 4 o'clock, my boss called me into his office. Brandon, I understand that family situations can be complicated, but you need to make sure your personal life does not affect the work environment from now on. He paused briefly, as if weighing his words. If this happens again, we will have to have a much more serious conversation about your position here. It was a warning, a direct professional consequence for something that was not even my fault, entirely orchestrated by my sister's manipulation. When I got home that night, my wife was waiting for me in the kitchen. She looked at my face and knew right away. They went to your work, didn't they? I nodded and told her everything. Courtney showed up during business hours and told my boss and practically half the office that I was gifted nearly $800,000 and that I refused to help my own sister. I paused, still processing it. She made me look like an entitled rich kid, someone who abandoned his family. I slumped into a chair. My boss warned me to keep my personal problems out of work. I stayed silent for a moment. Do you know what the worst part is? My wife watched me without interrupting. For a few seconds after she left, when everyone was staring at me, I wondered if they were right. I swallowed hard. If maybe I was being selfish, if I should let Courtney move in, even temporarily, just to end all this chaos. Claire sat across from me and stayed silent for a long moment. And what did you decide? I looked at her. I decided that they already had their chance to be happy for us. They could have celebrated our wedding, our house, our future, but they chose something else. I shook my head calmly. They chose to be resentful. They chose to make demands. They chose to start this whole harassment campaign. I paused briefly. That is on them, not us. They were the ones who made that choice. Claire nodded slowly. Are you absolutely sure? Because once we involve my mother, once we truly fight back, there is no turning back. This becomes a war. I stood up. I am sure. I am tired of being the reasonable one. Tired of trying to make peace with people who see happiness as an opportunity to take advantage. I looked directly at her. Call Vivian. That Saturday, my mother called me, her voice filled with anguish. Your father has been having severe headaches from the stress. The doctor says he needs to rest, and all this is really affecting him. There it was, the usual manipulation. If Dad is stressed, that is between him and his doctor, I replied. Then my mother delivered the final blow. What he needs is for his son to stop being selfish and help his family. Do you want your father to get sick over this? It worked just enough for me to agree to meet them for dinner. Claire insisted on coming with me and made it clear that it was not negotiable. Dinner was at their house, and the moment we walked in, I knew it was an ambush. Mom, Dad, Courtney, and even Courtney's friend Jordan were there. They all looked at us with expressions ranging from disappointment to open hostility. My father took the floor. We have been thinking of a way to resolve this. He said it with that tone he used when he was about to propose something completely absurd. A practical solution that benefits everyone. I am listening, I said. My mother spoke, her voice already heavy with emotion. How about Courtney moves in with you guys just temporarily until she gets back on her feet? We are not asking for charity, just for family to support each other in a difficult time. Courtney chimed in immediately with the tone of someone who thinks everything is already decided. I could use the third bedroom. I would not be in your way. I would even help with the utilities. Although honestly, with a house that size, you probably would not even notice I am there. Claire let out a short, cold, cutting laugh. No, everyone looked at her. She held their gazes without flinching. Let me be clearer. Absolutely not. Not temporarily, not permanently, not ever. She paused. That house was a gift from my mother. To us, not to your spoiled daughter who thinks the world owes her something. My mother's face immediately turned red. Her voice rose. How dare you speak about my daughter like that? After everything we have done for this family, after all the sacrifices we have made. Sacrifices, I interrupted her. What sacrifices? Being decent parents. That is not a sacrifice, it is your responsibility. My father stepped in with that cold, calculating tone. Let us be objective. You have 3 bedrooms, and you are 2 people. It is an inefficient use of space. Courtney needs housing. The math is simple. The moral decision is obvious. Courtney smiled smugly. Besides, let us be real. It is not like you guys earned that house. Your mother-in-law gave it to you because she has money to spare. Some of us actually have to work for what we get. You are right, I replied calmly. Then why do not you work hard enough to get your own place? The room fell silent. My father was the first to recover. That is exactly the problem. You two think you are better than us. Superior just because you have money now. My mother was already crying, putting on the full show. I cannot believe my own son allows his wife to disrespect us like this. After everything we sacrificed to raise you. Claire leaned forward, serene but firm. You have no right to insult my husband and at the same time demand his house. That is not how respect works. That is not how a family works. She paused. And honestly, you have already made it clear to us what kind of family you are. Courtney stood up abruptly. You know what? You two are selfish. You got lucky, and now you think you deserve all this. The house, the life you have. We do not think we deserve it, I replied. We are just not naive enough to give it away because you threw a tantrum. My mother burst into even louder tears. I cannot believe my own son is choosing money over his family. I stood up slowly. Let me make something very clear. I did not choose money. I chose my wife. I chose my marriage. I chose the life we are building together. I looked at them one by one. You were the ones who decided that was not enough. You were the ones who made demands instead of offering congratulations. You weaponized the idea of family against respect. I paused, letting the silence weigh. So listen closely. If you keep pushing, you are going to find out that boundaries are not suggestions. They are consequences waiting to happen. That is the only choice you get. We left after that. Claire drove. I was too angry to focus. The first 10 minutes passed in silence. Then she spoke. They are not going to stop. I know, I answered her. They are going to keep escalating until something breaks. Are you ready for that? Yes, I told her. I am ready. That same night, my cousin Megan called me. I need to tell you something about your sister. She has been saying she is moving into a house next month. No, not that she hopes to, that it is already a done deal. I felt a chill run through my body. Are you sure? Completely. She showed me pictures of your house and said it was going to be hers. She is even using your address to receive mail and has already contacted contractors for renovations. My stomach dropped. I cannot believe it, I said. And that is not all. She is also telling potential roommates that they can move in next month. She is charging them deposits. This is insane, I replied. Megan hesitated for a second before continuing. Your parents are involved too. This is not new. They were planning to move in with you. Your dad was talking about retiring early, and your mom wanted to quit her job. She paused. They saw your marriage as their way out. I hung up and told Claire everything. Her expression turned completely cold. I am calling my mother right now. Vivian, my mother-in-law, arrived 2 hours later. We told her everything, the demands, the harassment, the scene at my work, and how my sister Courtney was collecting deposits for a house she did not even own. Vivian listened without interrupting, in complete silence. When we finished, she stayed quiet for several seconds. So, your family believes they have some right to a property that belongs to me? Apparently, I answered. How interesting. She took out her phone and dialed a number. Yes, this is Vivian Coleman. I need to schedule a lunch tomorrow at Willowbrook Country Club. She paused. The guest list will be Mr. David Cooper, Mrs. Karen Cooper, and their daughter Courtney. Yes, as my guests. Thank you. She hung up and looked at us with complete calm. I will handle this. Her eyes hardened slightly. You will be present, but who will be speaking? That will be me. By the next day, everything was already in motion. The country club had leather chairs, crystal chandeliers, and oil paintings on the walls. My mother had dressed elegantly. My father, on the other hand, looked uncomfortable in his tie. Courtney seemed excited. Vivian was the perfect host. She ordered drinks, made small talk, and complimented my mother's outfit. And then, effortlessly, she got straight to the point. I understand there has been some confusion regarding the house I gifted to Brandon and Claire. My mother's fork stopped midair. Oh, well, we were just talking about how family helps each other out. Of course, family is important, Vivian replied calmly. That is why I wanted to clear this up personally. Courtney leaned forward. Mrs. Coleman, I hope Brandon has explained to you that I am going through a difficult situation. That house has 3 bedrooms, and only 2 people live there. Vivian smiled slightly. How thoughtful of you to worry about space efficiency. Tell me more about your current situation. Courtney explained about her studio apartment, how expensive it was, and that her lease was about to end. I understand, Vivian nodded. And your profession? I work full-time at a very exclusive downtown boutique. Vivian tilted her head slightly. Full-time. Courtney's face flushed. Well, currently part-time, but you recently turned down a manager position at that very place, Vivian added softly. The atmosphere cooled immediately. Courtney shot me a glare. Vivian continued. Do not worry, Brandon tells me many things. We have grown quite close. He also mentioned that you think you should have the house I gifted to him and Claire for their wedding. The silence was absolute. My father cleared his throat. Mrs. Coleman, I believe there is a misunderstanding. I do not think so, Vivian interrupted calmly. Do you think that because I gave a house to my daughter and son-in-law, your daughter somehow is entitled to it? My mother's face turned red again. We just thought that, since Courtney is going through a difficult time. Difficult? Vivian set her fork down precisely. Your daughter works part-time by choice, turned down a promotion, and has been collecting deposits from potential roommates for a house that does not belong to her. Courtney paled. How do you know that? Vivian stared at her. Did you really think you could lay claim to a property I own without me finding out? She pulled out a folder and placed several documents on the table. Let me explain something. Although I gifted the house to Brandon and Claire, the property remains under the supervision of the family trust. They have full rights of use, but there are legal protections. She slid the papers over one by one. This is the trust documentation. This is the deed with all its legal conditions. And this, she paused slightly, is a cease and desist letter from my lawyer addressed to Courtney, demanding that she stop representing herself as having any right to the property. Courtney's mouth opened and closed without making a sound. Furthermore, Vivian continued. When I started noticing the extent to which you were involving yourself with this property, I decided to take precautions. She paused briefly. I installed security cameras. Her gaze did not waver. So from now on, I will know if you or any member of your family ever comes near that house again. My father finally reacted. I think you are overreacting a bit. Vivian leaned back slightly in her chair. Overreacting. I have every right to do so, and I am going to. Her voice did not raise in pitch, but it became absolutely firm. I am going to be very clear. The house belongs to Brandon and Claire. Courtney will not be moving in there. She will not visit it, and she will have no contact whatsoever with the property. She paused. Any further attempt at harassment will result in legal action, including restraining orders. My mother began to cry. You do not understand how hard this is. I understand perfectly, Vivian replied. You raised a daughter who believes she is entitled to what she has not earned, and when my family refused to sustain that illusion, you decided to launch a harassment campaign. She stood up elegantly. That ends today. She looked at everyone one last time. Lunch is over. I suggest you use this time to reflect on what family truly means. We got up and left. Behind us, Courtney muttered, This is all Brandon's fault. Vivian stopped without turning around and spoke loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. No, dear, you did this to yourselves. For the 2 weeks following the confrontation at the country club, everything was quiet. Too quiet. For a moment, I thought Vivian's intervention had worked. I was wrong. The family calls returned, But the tone had changed. They were no longer pleas or emotional blackmail. Now they were threats disguised as concern. Uncle Gary called saying I had made a huge mistake by embarrassing my parents in public, that some things could not be undone. Aunt Patricia called crying, swearing the family would never forgive us, that we had crossed a point of no return. Cousins I had not spoken to since high school suddenly had very strong opinions about respecting elders and putting family loyalty above all else. The messages also changed tone. They became darker and more aggressive. It was no longer about Courtney needing help, but about us having to face consequences. Then, my father showed up at my job again. This time he did not try to go inside or talk to my boss. He waited in the parking lot until I left at the end of the day, standing next to his car, watching the entrance. "Brandon," he said when he saw me, "we need to talk about what happened at that club." "There is nothing to discuss," I replied, keeping my distance. Vivian made everything very clear. His expression hardened. "You turned your mother-in-law against us. You made us look like fools in front of those people. You made your mother cry in public. That has consequences. The only consequences here are the ones you earned yourselves," I said. "Now get off this property before I call security." And then he walked away without saying anything else, looking at me with obvious disgust. That night, Claire showed me Courtney's latest social media activity. She had posted a poll about family members who abandon others in difficult times. The comments agreed. Karma always catches up. But what really unsettled me was her next post. Sometimes karma needs a little push. Sometimes people need to be reminded of what really matters. A few days later, my cousin Megan called me urgently. "You need to know what Courtney is doing." Her voice sounded tense. "She is still at it, Brandon," as if nothing happened. "She is telling people that next month she is moving into your house, that she already has roommates lined up." She paused briefly. "She shows them pictures of the house, talks as if it were already hers, and has already collected deposits from at least 3 people. And the worst part is she keeps doing it even after the legal letter." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Not only that," she continued, "she is saying it is a given that you and Claire will eventually cave, or that something will happen to change the situation in her favor." "What does that mean?" "I do not know," Megan replied, "but it sounds bad. Like she is convinced that house is already hers. Like she is just waiting for something specific to happen." Her voice dropped. "It is scary, Brandon." After hanging up, I told Claire everything. She called Vivian immediately. "We need to increase security," Vivian said. "First thing tomorrow, I will have more cameras installed, all angles, all entrances. I will also arrange for regular patrols." She paused. "If your sister comes near that property again, there will be evidence." "Do you really think she would try something?" I asked. "Desperate people do unpredictable things," she replied. "It is better to be prepared." For the next 3 weeks, nothing happened. The patrols reported no unusual activity. The cameras only caught neighbors walking dogs and delivery drivers dropping off packages. Work returned to normal. Life started to stabilize. We almost let ourselves relax. We almost believed the worst was over. Then, Claire's father invited us to his cabin up north for a long weekend. A chance to disconnect, to get away from all the drama. We left on Friday night. The house was locked, the security system armed, and the cameras rolling. We would return on Sunday night. Everything would be fine. We got back Sunday around 8. The street was quiet. Everything looked normal from the outside. I opened the front door and knew immediately that something was wrong. The smell hit first, damp and musty. Then I saw the floor. The beautiful original wood was warped, bulging in several places. There were water stains everywhere. "Claire," I said quietly, "do not come in yet." But she was already beside me. "Oh my God," Claire said. We walked through the ground floor in complete shock. The living room ceiling had partially collapsed. The walls were marked by moisture. The stained glass windows were intact, but the wooden frames were swollen and rotting. The kitchen floor was destroyed, tiles cracked and lifted, our furniture soaked, ruined. Our framed wedding photos were warped by the water. The souvenirs from our honeymoon, unrecognizable. The dining room was the worst. The ceiling had come down completely. Pieces of plaster and drywall covered the antique table that had belonged to Vivian's grandmother. Water was still dripping from above. The walls were bloated, stained. Claire was trembling. "This was intentional," she whispered. I took out my phone and called Vivian, then the police, and then insurance. Vivian arrived first. About 20 minutes later, accompanied by her head of security, Marcus. They walked through the house in silence while Marcus took photos and notes. "How bad is it?" I asked. Marcus did not hesitate. "Structural damage. The water has been running for at least 36 hours, possibly more." He paused. "This was not a broken pipe or a water heater failure. Someone did this deliberately." "How can you be sure?" I asked him. He pointed to a door we had overlooked. "The basement entrance. Forced entry. The lock was tampered with, and the damage pattern does not match an accident." He looked right at me. "This was sabotage. How did they get in without triggering the alarm?" I asked. Marcus examined the door frame. "It is an old exterior entrance. The main system covers the primary doors and windows, but this one was not hooked up to the sensors yet. The basement access was scheduled to be integrated in a future update." Then he pointed into the basement. "Here is the answer. The main water supply valves were opened all the way. We also found the water heater valve tampered with. This was not a pipe that burst on its own. Someone deliberately opened them and let them run." He paused briefly before continuing. "With the flow at maximum pressure for over 30 hours, the result is exactly this." He gestured to the collapsed ceiling. What the water did not destroy directly, the accumulated humidity ruined. Vivian pulled out her phone and made an immediate call. "Yes, I need you at the property right now. Bring the footage from all the cameras. Last 72 hours. Yes, the Coleman Trust property. Thank you." She hung up and looked at us. "My lawyer is on the way. The police will be here first, and my insurance investigator will arrive in the morning." Her voice grew firm. "Do not touch anything else. This is now a crime scene." The police arrived in 30 minutes. They documented everything, took statements, photographed the forced entry, and walked through every damaged room. One of the officers looked at the mess and shook his head. This was not random. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. The insurance investigator arrived early the next day, photographed every corner, documented the forced basement door, and analyzed the damage patterns. Shortly after, Marcus returned with a laptop. "We have the footage." He played it, and we all watched. Courtney's car appeared on the front camera at 1:53 in the morning on Saturday. It sat parked for 8 minutes. Just her inside, staring at the house. Then she drove off. The investigator crossed his arms. "That alone does not prove anything, but it is very interesting." "There is more," Marcus said. He switched cameras. The rear view showed a figure moving along the side of the house, heading toward the basement entrance at 2:14 in the morning. It was too dark to make out the face, but the build and the way they walked matched. "It matches your sister," Marcus added. "Compared to other footage we have." The investigator leaned forward. "The security company can confirm that the basement entrance was forced between 2 and 2:30 in the morning on Saturday." Vivian's lawyer chimed in. "It is still circumstantial evidence, but a pattern is already forming." At that moment, my phone rang. It was Megan, my cousin. "Brandon, you need to hear this right now. Courtney called me yesterday. She was drunk and bragging. She said, and I quote, 'Sometimes karma needs a push. Sometimes people need a reality check on what they actually own.' I put her on speakerphone. Everyone listened. The investigator spoke immediately. 'Did she say anything specific about what she did?' 'Not directly,' Megan replied. 'But she said it was already taken care of, that you guys would soon understand what really matters, that material things are temporary.'" She paused. She was laughing. The investigator took notes and then looked up. "Do you have that conversation saved?" "I recorded it," Megan answered. She sounded weird, so I started recording halfway through the call. "I am sending it to you now." The investigator's expression changed completely. Then Claire chimed in. "Is there anything else?" She pulled out her phone and opened Courtney's social media. "Look at this." It was a post from 3:47 in the morning on Saturday, just hours after the camera footage. Some people do not appreciate what they have until they lose it. Maybe a little reality check will help them remember what is really important. The investigator took screenshots. His demeanor was no longer the same. "This is no longer circumstantial," he said firmly. "This is a clear pattern of evidence." He listed them off on his fingers: the post, the recording, the cameras, the forced entry. He looked right at us. "I am going to recommend this be treated as a full criminal investigation." He paused briefly. "I am sorry you guys are going through this, but whoever did this made serious mistakes, and that carries consequences." The police got involved within hours after reviewing all the evidence. The assigned detective had seen similar cases before, family disputes escalating into property crimes. Each piece on its own was circumstantial, but together they were damning. 2 days later, the detective called me. "We are pressing charges. Aggravated property damage and evidence of premeditation." His tone was serious. "Given the property value and the extent of the damage, this is severe." "How severe?" I asked. "If convicted, she could face between 2 and 5 years. He paused. "Although most cases like this end in a plea deal, the evidence is strong enough that her lawyer will recommend she take one." Meanwhile, Vivian's lawyer acted just as swiftly. She filed restraining orders against all 3 of them. Against Courtney, my sister, for the act itself, and against my father and mother for having facilitated and encouraged the behavior. Their names appeared in the calls to contractors. Everything was documented. Their harassment continued even after the legal warnings. The insurance estimated the damages at $220,000. Repairs included structural work, water damage remediation, full floor replacement, ceiling reconstruction, electrical inspection, and mold prevention. Because it was a property within the trust, Vivian's commercial insurance covered the bulk of it. Still, the deductible was $35,000. Vivian paid it without hesitation. "This is what family does," she simply said, "protect each other." The repairs took 4 months. For months, living in a corporate rental that Vivian organized. For months, watching our home being rebuilt. For months, dealing with investigators, insurance adjusters, contractors, and legal processes. My father and mother tried to call us once, 2 weeks after charges were filed. Vivian's lawyer stopped it immediately with a new cease and desist, this time with stricter clauses, a ban on direct contact, and social media monitoring. When they tried to reach out through family members, those relatives also received similar legal letters. Courtney fought the charges for about 3 weeks until her public defender sat down with her and showed her the entire file. The camera timestamps, the audio recording, her social media posts, the forced entry, and the clear pattern of harassment and behavior. He explained to her that the prosecution had a 97% conviction rate in cases with such solid evidence. He explained that if she chose to go to trial and lost, she would face the maximum penalty. He also made it clear that the plea deal on the table was by far the best option she was going to get. Courtney ended up taking it. Probation, restitution, and a permanent restraining order. The alternative would have been going to trial and in all likelihood ending up in prison. The restitution amount was $47,000, her share of the damages not covered by insurance, plus legal fees. The payment plan spanned at least 7 years. We did not attend the hearing. Our lawyer represented us, but I read the transcript afterward. Courtney had to plead guilty. She had to admit in an open courtroom exactly what she had done and why. She had to say in her own words that she deliberately damaged our property because she felt she was entitled to it. The judge was direct. "Do you understand that your actions constitute a felony regardless of your feelings about what you consider fair?" "Yes," she answered. "Do you understand that restitution and probation are a privilege compared to what you could be facing?" "Yes," she said. The restraining order against Courtney became permanent. Minimum distance, 500 feet, no direct or indirect contact. Any violation would mean immediate arrest. My father and mother received formal cease and desist orders with specific anti-harassment clauses. Any attempt at contact, direct or through third parties, could lead to their own restraining orders. For months later, we finally returned home. Shortly after, Vivian restructured the trust, adding extra protections. If anything happened to her, the property could not be transferred outside the immediate family. It could not be sold without the unanimous agreement of all parties involved, and it could not be used as collateral or encumbered, meaning it could not be used to back loans, debts, or any other financial obligation that could put it at risk. She also upgraded the entire security system, commercial grade, motion sensors, glass break detectors, cellular backup, and a direct connection to a monitoring service. Our address no longer appeared in public records. The property was listed solely under the trust's name, with no direct link to us. "Now it is truly yours," Vivian said as we walked through the restored house. "No one can take it from you. No one can claim it. It is legally and physically protected." She looked at both of us serenely. "I am sorry you had to find out what your family is capable of, Brandon, but I am not sorry you learned it. It is better to know who people are now than to spend years trying to sustain relationships with those who do not value you. 6 months after returning home, I went to the grocery store to buy groceries for dinner. An ordinary night. I turned down the produce aisle and froze. My father was there by the apples. He looked different, older, more tired, gray hair where there was none before. He saw me at the same time and stood perfectly still. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Then he walked toward me. "Brandon," he said quietly. "Hello," I said to him. He looked down at his cart. "Your mother and I have been separated for 3 months. He paused. "Courtney is working 2 jobs to pay the restitution. She is going to be at it for years." He sighed. Everything fell apart after what happened. I did not answer. I just waited. "We thought we were entitled to something," he continued. "Because we raised you. Because you got lucky and we did not. Because life was not fair and someone had to balance it." He shook his head. "We convinced ourselves it was to help Courtney, but it was really for us. We felt cheated." His voice grew rough. "We lost everything trying to take what was yours. We lost you, and we lost our dignity. Your mother and I cannot even look at each other." I looked at him in silence. "I am sorry," I finally said, "and I mean it." I paused. "I do not regret my decisions, but I do regret that you destroyed yourselves chasing something that was never yours." He nodded slowly. "I just wanted you to know," he said, "that we were wrong, that you did not owe us anything, that we should have been happy for you instead of resenting you." He swallowed hard. "I know it is late. I know you are not going to forgive us. I just needed to say it." At that moment, I thought about everything. The demands, the harassment, the humiliation at my job, the damaged house, the months rebuilding what we had lost. Then, I finally told him, "I hope you find peace, but not with us." I looked him right in the eye. "That door closed the day you crossed every boundary and tried to destroy what we built." He nodded. He did not argue. He did not make excuses. He did not try to convince me. He just nodded. "Take care, Dad," I said. He turned around and walked away with a sad expression. I watched him leave and felt nothing. When I got home, Claire was in what would soon be our baby's nursery, 7 months pregnant. She was painting the walls a soft yellow while humming. I ran into my father at the grocery store. I told her everything. She set the paintbrush aside. "How do you feel?" I thought about it for a moment. "Like it is finally over." She nodded, looking around the room. "Truly over." I followed her gaze. That was the room Courtney wanted, the space she thought belonged to her. And now it would be our daughter's room. "Yes," I said. "Over." Claire smiled softly. "In the end, the best revenge is living well." 2 months later, our daughter was born. Vivian cried when she held her for the first time. We named her Sophie. My father sent a card. "Congratulations." Nothing more. We did not reply. Sometimes I drive by my parents' old house. It looks smaller, more rundown than I remembered. I feel no triumph when I see it. I feel no vindication, just gratitude. Gratitude for having learned the lesson, even if it was not the one they were trying to teach. Family is not blood, it is respect. It is celebrating each other's happiness instead of resenting it. It is protecting, not demanding. Vivian taught me that. Claire taught me that. They showed me what it truly means to have a family. And now I will teach it to Sophie in a house that was given with love and protected with boundaries. Because that is how you win, not by destroying those who tried to destroy you, but by living well. Comment: I really hope this story resonated with you on a deeper level. Setting firm boundaries has taught me how important it is to protect the life and family I am building. True self-respect means knowing when to say no, even to people you love. Choosing your own peace is never selfish. It is necessary for your well-being. Real kindness comes from a place of strength, not from constantly trying to please everyone. Taking responsibility for your happiness can be difficult, but it is incredibly freeing. Healing often begins the moment you stop carrying guilt for other people's choices. I encourage you to reflect on the relationships in your life and ask yourself where boundaries might be needed. Remember that surrounding yourself with respect and support is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Let's all choose to build lives rooted in love, accountability, and inner peace. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.